Yeah, I know it's sad, man, but what are we supposed to do about it?
Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host, Will. Everybody loves a good crossover. One big superhero against another big superhero. The various guest characters in the Mortal Kombat franchise. But what happens when you take two stoners from Jersey and put them against an entire universe of superheroes? Well, let's find out when Jay and Silent Bob enter the Marvel Universe. Let's get to it.
Jay and Silent Bob, the two eccentric fictional buddies from Kevin Smith's Askewniverse, are back again. And this time, they're not just loitering outside the quick stop getting into trouble or talking way too much about pop culture. They have entered the Marvel Universe. Yes, you heard that right. In Jay and Silent Bob, Days of Future Past, a new Marvel Comics one-shot written by Kevin Smith himself, Jay and Silent Bob get to share panels with Marvel superheroes like Spider-Man, Deadpool, Wolverine, Hulk, Thor, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and the Avengers. And if that's not shocking and fascinating enough, Silent Bob even gets to lift Thor's hammer. In this video, we're gonna cover everything we know about Kevin Smith's new Marvel comic, Jay and Silent Bob, Days of Future Past, why this crossover is such a full circle moment for Smith, and why Silent Bob lifting Mjolnir might be one of the funniest Marvel moments of the year. Alright folks, without wasting any more time, let's jump right in. Who are Jay and Silent Bob? So before we focus on the latest Jay and Silent Bob Marvel comic and why it's so exciting, let's briefly talk about Jay and Silent Bob themselves. Jay and Silent Bob are characters created by Kevin Smith. They first appeared in the 1994 movie Clerks, which was written and directed by Smith. Jay is portrayed by Jason Mewes, and Silent Bob is portrayed by Kevin Smith himself. The two became recurring figures across Smith's fictional Askewniverse, appearing in movies like Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Clerks 2, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and Clerks 3. They have also appeared in animation, comics, video games, music videos, and other pop culture spaces over the years. As you can guess the name, Silent Bob is the quiet one. He speaks very rarely and often communicates through facial expressions, gestures, and body language, instead of fully voiced conversations. He has a beard, long hair, and usually wears a baseball cap backward. He was raised Catholic, and across the movies, he is sometimes shown to be surprisingly thoughtful, resourceful, and good with gadgets. Jay, on the other hand, is the verbal hurricane. He talks constantly, uses crude and offensive language, and has a loud, outgoing, aggressive personality. He's slim, usually loud enough to cause trouble in any room, and he is almost always dragging Silent Bob into some absurd misadventure. Together, they became one of the most recognizable comedy duos in cult pop culture. In many of the Askewniverse movies, we see them hanging around a corner store in New Jersey and getting pulled into strange adventures. Sometimes they act as comic relief, sometimes they drive the plot forward. In Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, they literally go to Hollywood to stop a movie based on their comic book alter egos, Blunt Man and Chronic. Kevin Smith's films have always been packed with comic book references. Mallrats gave us one of Stan Lee's most memorable non-Marvel movie cameos. Chasing Amy was about comic book artists and fandom. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back turned superhero parody into the actual plot, and Clerks itself opened the door for Smith's entire pop culture heavy world. Smith started as a small independent filmmaker with Clerks in 1994. Taking inspiration from independent voices like Spike Lee, Richard Linklater, and Jim Jarmusch. Over the next 3 decades, he built a cult following around his characters, his comic book obsession, and his very specific brand of nerdy, profane, emotional comedy. And now, Jay and Silent Bob have finally made it into an official Marvel comic, entering Marvel territory with Days of Future Past. For Jay and Silent Bob, entering the world of comics is not completely new. They've appeared in comics before, including stories built around their Blunt Man and Chronic alter egos. Recently, they even crossed over with Archie Comics in Archie Meets Jay and Silent Bob, also written by Kevin Smith. But this time, the scale is much bigger. Jay and Silent Bob, Days of Future Past, is a Marvel Comics one-shot written by Kevin Smith, drawn by Giuseppe Camuncoli, and released on June 10th, 2026. The title is obviously a joke on the famous X-Men storyline, Days of Future Past. And the premise is exactly as wild as you would expect. Jay and Silent Bob crash into the Marvel Universe, and Dr. Doom decides they need to die. That one sentence alone is enough to sell the comic. In the story, these beloved New Jersey stoners get to meet and interact with some of the most iconic heroes in Marvel history, including the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and the Avengers. Dr. Doom becomes convinced that Jay and Silent Bob are threats, and Marvel's heroes end up getting pulled into the chaos. Although Kevin Smith has written comics before for Marvel, DC, and other publishers, this is the first time he has brought his own View Askewniverse characters into an official Marvel Comics crossover. That's what makes this such a major full circle moment. In a Marvel interview, Smith explained that he has loved Marvel Comics since childhood. He even said comics shaped his morality more than serving as an altar boy at church every Sunday for 12 years. That is such a Kevin Smith sentence, but it also tells you how deeply personal this project is for him. Smith's films have always worshipped at the altar of comics. Mallrats centered on a comic book fan and featured Stan Lee. Chasing Amy was set around the comic book industry. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was built around Blunt Man and Chronic. So writing a comic where Jay and Silent Bob meet his childhood Marvel heroes is not just another gig for him. It's basically a dream he has been chasing since the 90s. In fact, Smith has said he pitched the basic idea to Stan Lee while shooting Mallrats. He wanted a one-shot where Jay and Silent Bob could meet Marvel's All-Stars almost in the spirit of Fred Hembeck Destroys the Marvel Universe. It took more than 30 years, but Marvel finally said, yes. That's kind of beautiful. This isn't just another crossover. It's Kevin Smith writing a love letter to Marvel Comics using the two characters who have been with him since the beginning of his career. What exactly is Jay's A Future Past about? At the beginning of Jay and Silent Bob, Jay's A Future Past, the threat comes from none other than Dr. Doom. Kang warns Doom that Jay and Silent Bob are existential threats to him. Naturally, Doom responds in the most Dr. Doom way possible. He sends an army of Doombots to eliminate them. When the Doombots arrive to attack Jay and Silent Bob, the Fantastic Four show up to save them. From there, the situation gets bigger and more ridiculous, as Spider-Man, the X-Men, and the Avengers also get pulled into the madness. The comic basically turns into a giant Marvel team-up where some of the most powerful heroes on Earth are forced to protect two New Jersey slackers from Dr. Doom. That's the joke. And honestly, it works. The artwork by Giuseppe Camuncoli gives the story the scale of a real Marvel event, which is important because the comedy only lands if the superhero side of the story is treated with full seriousness. The heroes look heroic. Doom looks dangerous. The action feels big. And then Jay opens his mouth and the whole thing immediately becomes absurd in the best way. That is classic Kevin Smith. The comic gives us the tone of Smith's previous work mixed with the spectacle of a Marvel superhero crossover. You get Jay making inappropriate comments, with Silent Bob silently reenacting to everything, and Marvel heroes trying to process why these two are suddenly the center of a universe-level problem. Seeing Jay and Silent Bob interact with superheroes like Thor, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, Wolverine, Deadpool, Black Widow, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and the Fantastic Four isn't just a dream come true for Smith. It's also a very weird dream come true for nerds who grew up with his movies. And for Marvel fans who may not know Jay and Silent Bob, this comic is also a gateway into the View Askewniverse. If someone reads this one-shot and then goes back to Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, or Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, then the crossover has done its job. It brings two very different fandoms into the same room. One of them has cosmic superheroes, gods, mutants, and armored billionaires. The other has two guys from Jersey who sell weed, quote pop culture, and somehow keep ending up in legendary situations. And somehow, the combination makes sense. Silent Bob lifts Thor's hammer. Now, let's talk about the wildest moment. Silent Bob lifts Thor's hammer. Yes, Silent Bob, the man who barely talks. The man who hangs around a corner store with Jay. The man whose main superpower used to be staring silently until Jay finished saying something wildly inappropriate. That guy is apparently worthy of Mjolnir. If you're familiar with the MCU, you already know that lifting Thor's hammer is a huge deal. In Avengers Age of Ultron, the Avengers try lifting Mjolnir during a party scene, and Captain America manages to move it slightly. Thor notices and gets nervous for a second, but Steve does not fully lift it at that point. That scene was played for laughs, but it also sets up one of the most famous moments in the MCU. Years later, in Avengers Endgame, Captain America finally lifts Mjolnir during the battle against Thanos, and the entire theater basically exploded. That is why Silent Bob lifting the hammer is so hilarious. Usually, Mjolnir is not just heavy, it is magically selective. The person who lifts it has to be worthy. In Marvel lore, very few characters get that honor. Thor, Captain America, Beta Ray Bill, Jane Foster, and a handful of others are among the famous examples. And now, apparently, Silent Bob joins the club. Kevin Smith completely flips the script here. There is no epic hero's journey, there is no dramatic training montage, there is no long explanation about why Silent Bob has earned the right to lift the hammer. He just does it. And that's what makes the joke work. Silent Bob is not a traditional superhero. He's not a god, soldier, king, mutant, or cosmic warrior. He's just a mostly silent guy from New Jersey who somehow has a pure enough heart, or at least enough Kevin Smith logic on his side, to pick up Thor's hammer like it is no big deal. No wonder Dr. Doom wants him dead. The scene also fits Silent Bob in a weird way. Across Kevin Smith's films, Silent Bob may be ridiculous, but he often delivers the quiet emotional truth when it matters most. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, it usually means something. Under all the weed jokes, crude humor, and slacker comedy, Silent Bob has often been the calm, thoughtful center of the duo. So yes, it is absurd, but it also kind of tracks. If any View Askewniverse character was going to be secretly worthy, of course it would be Silent Bob. Why this crossover matters. What makes Jay's A Future Past exciting is not just the novelty of seeing Jay and Silent Bob next to Marvel heroes, it's the fact that Kevin Smith has spent his entire career building towards something like this. He's always been a comic book filmmaker. Even when he was making low-budget indie comedies, superhero talk was everywhere in his work. His characters debated pop culture like it was sacred scripture. His movies treated comic book fans not as side jokes, but as people with language, rituals, and obsessions of their own. That is why this crossover feels earned. Smith is not an outsider randomly borrowing Marvel toys. He's a creator who has been publicly loving Marvel for decades. Stan Lee appeared in Mallrats. Comic creator shaped Chasing Amy. Bluntman and Chronic were superhero parody before parody superhero universes were everywhere. Jay and Silent Bob have been circling Marvel's orbit for 30 years. Now they're finally inside it. And Marvel benefits too. At a time when superhero stories often feel massive, serious, and continuity heavy, this one-shot is a reminder that comics can still be ridiculous in the best possible way. They can be meta, they can be self-aware. They can put Dr. Doom, Mjolnir, the Avengers, the X-Men, and two Jersey stoners into the same story and somehow make it feel like a celebration instead of a gimmick. That is the energy Marvel needs more often. Not everything has to be a universe-ending epic. Sometimes a comic can just be a wild one-shot where Kevin Smith gets to play with his childhood heroes and bring his own characters along for the ride. And honestly, that sounds like a pretty good day at the office. Jay and Silent Bob have officially entered the Marvel Universe. Let's see where it goes from here. If Marvel can include Jay and Silent Bob in their universe, then the possibilities feel endless. Maybe this is a one-time joke. Maybe it's a beautiful little love letter that never needs a sequel. Or maybe Marvel and Kevin Smith will find another excuse to bring these two back into superhero chaos again. At this point, anything feels possible. And on that note, we would like to sign off. We hope you enjoyed our video. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon with our next video. Till then.